Hi everyone, so we're just gonna get started. I don't know how many people are gonna come. I don't really feel like waiting. I have things to do, all things to do. This is just like a forum for people to kind of voice their opinions and concerns, stuff related like that to transportation services, which is underneath umbrella facilities and operations, which is overseen by Mike, Associate Vice President of Facilities and Operations and Building Services, long title. I'm Omar Tawe. I'm the Public Relations Director of the Undergraduate Student Government here. We've been hearing a lot of concerns with regards to parking services and transportation services on campus, so we saw this as an opportunity to provide students the opportunity to come and voice their concerns directly to the administration and those who are overseeing the things that they are frustrated with, and then hopefully we can move forward and develop like an action plan after this meeting based on the concerns that you all present to us and move forward to kind of like mend and remediate some of the issues that we see on campus. So,
thank you. Thank you, Omar. I see Christine is here. I know Sam cannot be here. But I did want to just, welcome everybody. Thank you for your time. I've had parking and transportation under my purview since I think April. And in that time, we've been trying to look at different ways to make the campus safer. So what I'd like to do tonight, and also improve services, I want to kind of add that too. We didn't just make changes to parking and transportation because we thought we wanted to make things worse. We were trying to make things better. And as I mentioned to Christine and Sam in a meeting earlier this week, what we did is we made changes, but we didn't communicate them well. And starting this week and really tonight and then going forward, really my plan is to make sure that you all are part of the communications and changes as we continue to evolve campus. And campus is going to continue to evolve. It's going to change. So what I'd like to do is make sure that we cover some of the topics that are up here. I want to keep the meeting very informal. My style is not to stand up here behind a podium and talk. I'd rather have you come one-on-one, two-on-one meetings in my office. I come out, meet you. I'm come here tonight to meet with you. But make sure that we get through some of the topics that have come up. But I also want to show you just a very broad look at the way the campus is designed, some light changes and changes that we're planning as a university as we continue to grow, and then how you kind of design a transportation system. I want to separate transportation from parking in this presentation just for a while, because they are interrelated. Where the parking lots are, we do need to get buses from them, but how you design the busing system really depends on where the parking lots are. So I just want to kind of walk you through that. I'll talk for about 8 to 10 minutes. At the end of that, I want to spend maybe the next 45 minutes to an hour open conversation, questions. If you guys have anything, shoot away. And we want to just keep the meeting civil. You know, we don't need to. Let's just have a good, open, honest conversation. So, this is a map of campus, and what I like about this one, I actually have this on the wall in my office as a whiteboard. We use it for a bunch of reasons. The blue buildings are really our core, our academic buildings. The red buildings are the residential life buildings, where people live. And it's kind of hard to see because they're both tan, but the darker tan color is the parking. So all of our students live on the outside of campus, and our parking lots are on the outside of campus. And when you hear that we are a walking campus, in part it's naturally the way the campus has developed, but it's also by design. We're building parking lots on the peripheral campus, and we're building our housing on the peripheral campus. So when you want to design a busing system, you want to kind of look at where your populations are, and you want to just draw them to the core. Now, one of the changes, so you have your 4 corners, and then you want, for some reason it's not connected, 4 circles should still be there. You want to get the 4 corners of campus into the core of campus, and then you want to start connecting the various corners. So we want to get people from Store Center, W lot, and yes. This is good. And it's really, and then from there, we put our busing system together. So you take where your populations are and you want to get it to the core. One of the changes we made this year, and with complaints based on last year, our buses were not reliable because many of them sat in traffic on Hillside Road, just trying to get from one end to the other. And I myself had seen 2, 3, 4 buses back to back to back, trying to get from one end of campus to the other. My office, I have a pointer with me, is up in the top left corner. I often go to meetings over by Mirror Lake. And when I go to the meeting, I drive all the way around Separatist, down to South Eagleville, all the way out to 195, and I don't even go near campus because of traffic. So I'm up here, if you can see that, in these buildings, and I come all the way around here, all the way back out and around, and then come in here to the offices that I frequently visit, just to avoid traffic in front of Gamble. So our goal this year was to try and eliminate the conflict between students crossing and the buses. And we also encouraged all of our facilities employees not to drive their vans and pickup trucks down that same road, although they have to because we have to get in there to service the buildings. We wanted to try and limit the amount of conflict. On top of that, we have the construction of the new rec center in here, and we don't have a sidewalk on that side of the, I guess it would be the east side of the road. So anybody that's going back to McMahon or to Alumni or walking along Hillside Road has to cross at that intersection at Calhoun Way and Hillside. So last year we tried it, but it lasted about a day. We made only a one-way at Calhoun Way, but it interfered with other operations, so it was something we tried. We tried a whole bunch of things, how to make it safer. So change we decided to make, and I challenged our transportation people, can we put our bus routes together in a way that does not drive here on Hillside Road? They did. We opened schools. We didn't tell anybody that we did that. So people were getting on the buses in different parking lots, and they were thinking they were getting on the same orange line that they got on last year, and it was going to different locations. So we need to do a better job at that. We're going to take that one on the chin. We know we made a mistake in that area. Going forward, as we make adjustments to the bus lines, and there's some opportunities possibly to make some changes, we want to encourage student engagement. So we're going to look to Christine and Omar and Sam, and you mentioned somebody else, I'm forgetting her name, to help us select people that are going to both help us make decisions, be part of the decision process, but also communicate back. Facilities operations we're a large department. We do everything from cleaning and mowing the lawns to generating 27 megawatts of power. We run a sewer system, a water system. All services you guys don't, they just sort of happen. And you guys aren't, I want to make the busing and transportation system do the same thing. And we've had student involvement in all those other services, and we just need to bring it into this area. So that's really what happened with our transportation changes. We were trying to resolve a significant safety issue, and in doing so, we changed the routes. We were thinking, to get dropped off somewhere around the engineering area and get into the core campus really wasn't that far or different than dropped off here at Fairfield Way. And the same thing, you get dropped off here at Gilbert and get into the core campus, it wasn't that significant of a difference. We're hearing otherwise. So we gotta come up with some options. The safety issues still exist, but we're gonna have to work through, working with you, work through how do we make the adjustments. So, any questions on the busing and why we changed the buses? Because I kind of want to just explain that, because it's pretty straightforward. And then I just want to kind of open it up to the parking week questions.
What were the roads that you're trying to keep the buses off of in order to avoid pedestrians?
The question is, what roads are we trying to keep the buses off of? Is that Hillside?
Just Hillside?
Hillside, it's really Hillside in front of Gamble and Student Union. It's that intersection at Calhoun Way that's dangerous.
Is there a potential to maybe get a stoplight at that intersection? Because I feel like just as we have one at the Buckley Shippey intersection, where a lot of students are crossing often, that's really effective to have that stoplight and crosswalk. I feel like especially at Jim Kelvin Way, such a dangerous place for both the drivers and students who are walking. A stoplight would be perfect.
That is one of the options we're looking at.
Do you mind touching on why we're trying to avoid traffic on the side road, specifically the bus lanes?
The conflict between the students. The hardest thing is the people that cross diagonally through the part of that intersection. It shuts down parking. It shuts down transportation. But it also becomes dangerous because you got people going diagonal and people following the crosswalks. And if you're a driver, either in a bus or in a car, the worst point of night is a night like tonight, especially when it's twilight. Your windshield wipers are going, and you've got blind spots. It's very dangerous.
I was wondering if you could elaborate on the recent change, particularly to the yellow and blue line, which were changed for this semester and then changed again after the first week.
So yellow, and I'm going to look to get some support. I'm not sure on blue, but yellow, we had a lot of pushback from the people in the fine arts department, trying to get people up to, not specifically the band, but connecting the fine arts or the store center area up with the W lot. Did I get it right? So all the 195 corridor. So we made the change to accommodate that. The blue line, if I can go to.
So the blue line, what, at the beginning of the year?
Yeah, I guess blue line was adjusted so far
Yeah,
during the year.
so the blue line at the beginning of the year provided service between the top left circle and top right circle and went between the north part of campus for service. That was running behind schedule, partly because of the initial load of the start of the academic year, and just kind of rush load with the number of passengers. So then the decision was made to separate those two, shorten the routes, provide better service. At the same time, the second thing that you said is there needed to be service between W lot and the fine arts in this area. And that was the change that was made.
So I'll summarize if you didn't hear that. The original blue line went connecting the two top circles, and we separated it in order to improve services.
Yeah, so I understand that the band members practice up there. I'm sympathetic to that. I like music. But what about all the other commuters who park in W lot, who now only have access to the yellow line, which only goes on 195? You were talking earlier about how the design was to move people from the far lots into the core of campus. You can sort of see on the map there that that line doesn't actually take you to core.
So that is one of the lines that we're looking at. We're actually beginning that we want to. I wasn't going to make any more changes until we had this one, and I'm not going to make any more changes until we have your input into it. But that is one of the lines. We are taking everybody from W lot at the top, right? And we're dropping them. You eventually get to Gilbert Road. So the core, but you're on the southern end of the core. And we need to adjust that. We agree.
Yeah.
If I just say, one of the things that was written and also was talked about is that all these changes were made for budgetary purposes. None of these changes were made for budget. There's nothing here was done to save money, although there's a lot of things we can gain in efficiencies by merging departments and stuff. This was done, really did start as a way for safety. So if you are selected, and I'll look to Omar and our people with student government, if you are selected to be on the group, we'll be happy to work with you or any of you on the new suggested bus routes.
I get Hillside Road, but now I feel like the buses do less because like my friend lives at Hilltop and I live at South and we eat at Towers all the time. But now to get to Towers, she has to take red to South and we have to take yellow to Towers. Whereas usually like blue would just solve that issue. She would take blue at Hilltop and I take blue at South and we go to Towers. Like I get it, but it's more like I feel like the buses just, they have shorter routes now, which means they don't really travel as far as you want to go.
So if I got you're in Hilltop,
I'm in South. She's at Hilltop.
You're in Hilltop. And you want to get from Hilltop to where?
Towers. We
Two
eat there
towers. So one of the ways to do it, what I didn't mention is in the core of campus. Now, the one bus that does run on Hillside is a circulator bus. So we have the one bus that just sort of goes, I think it's Gilbert to Hillside, out to 195, and just sort of does the core. And there's a transfer, and then you can get onto a different line. That bus today, today's weather was bad. That's actually, it had twice as much ridership than any of the other bus lines. So it's being utilized for us. So like any transit system, you may have to, this was the thought process, you may have to transfer to a different bus at some point. And the solution may be something different for the future, but that's currently our current system and then the thought process as to it. But as we meet and discuss over the next couple of weeks, we can look at that. He had to say it, I'll come back to you.
Yeah, so, we're kind of pertaining to buses going on Hillside Road. Now there's only one bus that goes to the student area. Seeing as how the student union is the hub for all students to go to, and it gets like the most access for students, wouldn't it make it more accessible by having more buses running there? So that way it goes throughout other parts of campus instead of just one?
There's a number of buses that stop in front of the student union, or in front of the bookstore. And I don't know the colors, but there's a route that comes down from Hilltop that stops there. So there's the circulator.
Yeah, there's the red that comes down from Hilltop, stops there. I think the green stops there, right on the opposite way.
So this is, let me just go to this. These are the roads that we want to have the buses travel on. You'll see this area of Hillside that's not used. So this is how we want to travel the buses around campus. And the graphic isn't very good, and I literally, like in a few days, we threw this together. But these are the bus routes, and they are all online. So there's a number of buses. And this is in front of, right here is the student union, so there's at least 3 lines that stop there. Hold on, I think she had it first.
Well, I know you mentioned the safety of the weather from Gamble, but in terms of safety otherwise, I feel like, if you're coming in, you're coming to the lot or the lot, you're in the middle of the spring semester, when it's snowing and the buses don't come on time, if you're trekking out that far, that doesn't seem so safe to me. I'm just wondering what other safety, reasons were behind that.
Well, the safety specifically for Hillside was the interaction with students. One of the things that you touched on, we bought 5 or 6 new buses, and then we have some older buses, which, you see the difference between the 2 buses. There's technology that we can buy that counts the number of people that get on the bus, get off the bus. We have GPS location devices on the buses that can tell us exactly where the buses are. But then it gives us the data to find out the percent, like how accurate are we? So everyone makes comments that the buses are never on time and all. We don't know whether we don't know how true we are to our schedule. And I'd love to be able to say, if you're up in C lot, you're all alone and you're standing at that bus stop, that's not great. So it'd be nice to be able to have technology available to you. You know the bus is going to be there in 3 minutes, so you get out of your car 2 minutes before the bus gets there. So there's a lot that I think we can add to. And then within the buses, there's camera systems and things that we want to enhance as well. All of that should be up and running for second semester. She was first, I'll come back to you.
I'm sorry, but could you please identify yourself?
Dwight Atherton, Parking Services.
Glad you can make it.
Back up.
I've been on green by accident. And when I took it, it doesn't stop in front of Gamble, like it just goes straight to W lot. So if you don't stop like by Alumni, that's the last stop that you could take. So like if you want to go to the Union, you would stop at Alumni, which is very convenient.
It should stop in front of the bookstore, but I'll find
When
it.
it's coming back, it does.
And,
But
mark it.
when it's going like the first time, like when it's going up to that lot, it doesn't stop anywhere.
There's no stop because of the construction?
Would there be a way to?
Yeah, that's easy. Did you hear that question?
I couldn't hear which line.
The green? The green.
Green, yeah.
Yeah, green not stopping on the way back.
I think that's the one that stops at the Rickson. That one, because of the construction, the stop on the way is right across from McMahon on the outside of the road. The rec center stop is its town park.
But maybe we could do something along Calhoun by
We can
basketball.
look at it,
We can look at it.
closer.
Yeah.
But that is, yeah, that stop was just stepped back because of basically the sight lines to make sure you have a safe location on that side of the road because of the construction fence. And we've spoken about how we might be able to improve the walkway on that side of the street.
Hi, I have a couple questions. So I live in Charter Oak Apartments, so I take Blue Line specifically. And one of the questions I had is, I'm not sure if this is false information, but we were told that we were getting 3 blue buses, and there have been 2. I think the first week they were running, and now there's 2. And the second question I have is, a lot of my classes are in Monteith. So to get there is,
I gotta switch.
yeah. Well, to get there is a hassle right now because Blue Line, I think it's this one every 12 minutes, but for me, it's been coming every 12 minutes. And it usually takes like at least 20 minutes, so I was wondering if there was a way maybe, I know like F-Log and stuff, I know it's 2 days now, but I know a lot of people don't even get for front of those stops. And I feel like if the routes are supposed to be 12 minutes, then if you go through it once instead of going back through F-Log, that might be a little bit better. So I was wondering if you could maybe speak to like, if that would be feasible, and also if, you know anything about the 2 versus 3 buses.
Did we reduce the number of buses on the Blue Line from 2 to 3, from 3 to 2?
No, not the word way. It was a reduction in service. It's only a change in route.
One of the problems with coming out of, and this, so now there's the convergence, not only of our transportation systems, but there's also our just general traffic. And the more people, faculty, staff, and commuters trying to load into campus, the traffic on Discovery Drive has been backed up almost to 44. So part of the problem you may be experiencing is we just can't get the buses through. And,
Certain hours,
Yeah.
not the hours I go actually,
but
so.
but I'll look at the counts and the number of buses and all that.
Okay, yeah, because there's been 2, I know the first week there was 3, and then it changed to 2.
Okay.
I think when the route change happened, so, yeah.
So this is my first semester here as a junior, and I was wondering how long it's supposed to take from C-Lot down to engineering. I know it goes up to Oak, and then it goes back down, and around to engineering. It takes me about, I usually when I get there, it can be anywhere between like, if I'm lucky, it'll like the bus will come, or it'll be a 20-minute wait, and then it's about a 20-minute drive, the bus ride, and then it takes me 5 minutes to walk to
I
class.
believe our standard on the buses should be every 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's 10 or 12 was what it should
10
be.
or 12.
On Monday, I was 5 minutes late to class, even though I got to C-Lot at about 4:05, and I got to class at 4:45. And that's only in, that's in Oak.
And a lot of those frustrations when I was talking, I wish we had literally the raw data.
And that wasn't the first time that's happened to me. So I made sure I come early, very early to make sure that happens.
Yeah, going off of that, what they said about Blue Line on the computer, and I parked in F-Lot, I think it is, the one like kind of past like the police station.
Yep.
So the Blue Line comes to that lot after going to Charter Oak and C-Lot. So by the time it gets there, every time it's always full. So like I can't even take the bus from here because I can't get on it. Like the bus driver just open the door and say like we're full, and that's it. So it's just kind of frustrating. Like you can't even get on the bus when it comes.
We'll look at that too.
I want to ask one student advocacy question. What is the, I know you already know, what is the plan moving forward for addressing these student concerns? So the ones I want, like, I know that there's going to be a specific, like, a group that will then be, but how in your mind is the best way that we can address these issues that students are getting to campus an hour before their class is still getting to class late, or moving between 2 different lots or 3 different lots where they can find a parking spot?
So the most important thing for me and for the facilities team is verify all of these things and then make, out of us, out of route. But getting the feedback, getting the feedback in, making the adjustments and going back is what we need to do. But we need to put structure together. That's sort of what I wanted to talk about today. We need, the structure has to be, a funneling system and a feedback loop that we can have that gives us raw data, gives us information, we can make adjustments in real time and then move forward. Well, at least had her hand up first, if I go back on top.
So relating to
Get you in
more,
right.
yes, relating more to logistics, Discovery Drive is back up every morning, and this is partly from what I've been told, due to the fact that, the junction between Separatist and Jim Calvin Way has been closed off, for infrastructure construction for the rec center. Why is this only happening now? Why didn't it happen over the summer?
So it's not, a couple of things, that, the if you guys don't know, up by soccer and baseball, softball, that road's closed. And it's for the construction of the new stadiums. That it's not because of the rec center. And it's just a matter of construction schedule. She was first.
I was just wondering how long you think it might take for, like, if the solution of additional buses, how long it would take to implement that?
So I get implemented tomorrow, but I'm not making a change until we have some kind of communication feedback with it. And I would say that that's probably a week, that we can, leave tonight in agreement with, that we're gonna form an advisory committee, whatever term we want to call it. But I want to be able to make changes, get your input, make changes, but make sure that that communication goes back out to everybody. But we can form that by the end of the week and then start implementing ideas that we have and you may have for next week. The trick to the matter, to this, is we got to make sure that when we make the changes, we're recognizing the entire student population. So there's resident students, we're getting complaints, some of the complaints that came in were regarding resident students, and they're not having enough parking. We've got the commuter students, we've got students that live in Store Center that park on our campus, and then just faculty and staff. So I want to make sure that all of the issues are on the table, so when we make the change, we're all in agreement that this is the best solution for everybody as a whole. One second. I'll come back to you. She had it first.
That's fine.
I'll come back. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm not really speaking, this is my last semester, but I'm more speaking of my experience and what I've seen progress over my 4 years at UConn. My first year was at Avery Point, and the parking was bad there, but I had no idea what bad parking was until I came up to this campus. And I've actually had to go to professors and say, look, I cannot get to my class on time over the past 4 years, and it's cost me grades, it's cost me a lot of gas money, it's cost me time. The one thing I wish that UConn could do is focus on putting a few more commuter lots, just build new lots. I've watched numerous students have issues parking. The frustration is to the point where students literally just don't even go to class. I've seen a lot of students go from A students to F students that are commuters just because of the parking, because they get so frustrated. I've seen a lot of students in my experiences in clubs, they switch universities because the parking is so bad. And my boyfriend goes to Eastern here, their parking is a lot cheaper and they actually can find a parking spot.
Yours is free.
Yeah, exactly, they don't pay for anything. I mean, I paid $600 so I could be on time to class this year. After 4 years of trying to park in lots, I had enough, and for my last
If I
semester,
know Eastern well enough, is there's two parking structures kind of right next to each other.
yeah, there's always a spot in there.
So, you mentioned that with the new buses, there will in the future be capacity to gather more data, ridership, schedules, things like that. I'm wondering at this point, because this is obviously a pressing matter this semester, right? We have a lot of impacts that are happening for students and faculty and staff. What type of data are you utilizing at this point to understand those trends, to make evidence-based decisions about ridership, about some of these anecdotal issues that are being brought up? What's happening on that?
So right now, I don't believe it's at every stop, but periodically during the routes, the drivers call in the data to the dispatch writes it down. Not a lot of, so we have a lot of kind of raw data. It's guesstimated data. I think it's just total ridership too. It's not how many got on and got off. I'd like to get more of this. So we know how many people are on a bus at a particular time. But we need more information to be able to know Like if we add a bus to a particular route, is there going to be ridership?
How about like schedules and the time pickups are happening?
Same, once we get the GPS data up and running, we'll be able to know exactly where those buses are.
But is that self-reported at all right now by drivers, or is it reported at all?
Is,
Would you like to come up and speak? I think if you want to come up.
So the question-
Because a lot of students are anticipating you coming to the meeting.
so the question is,
This is the Director of Parking Services, by the way.
he's more on the parking side than the transportation side. But the question, and I just started, is the buses themselves, what kind of data do we have about, are they going every 10 minutes or 12 minutes?
So there is headway information. As Mike said, we need to improve technology. One of the things that he was mentioning about the changes being made quickly, even if we do make the change, trying to get the company who does our bus locator to update their data so we actually have it represented on their apps and stuff, can take as long as 2 weeks.
Right.
So it's a question that, we have opportunities to improve the technology to get the information and to change it in real time, as Mike says.
I have, and again, I'm going, had the department just for a little bit, and I compare it a little bit to what we do over in facilities. There's about 100, facilities operations has about 400 employees, we have about 150 vehicles. Vans, pickup trucks, plows, tractors, you name it. I can tell you where all those vehicles are, who's sped, who went through a red light, how many miles per gallon, we have all that data. It's all raw data, it's all things that we use. When they come to me and say, I need another van, I need another truck, and well, no, these 3 haven't been used. The university has about 400 or 500 vehicles in their fleet, and we need to look at that, but especially with the buses. And that's, when we get the data is when we're really going to be able to be transparent. And my view is, I'm going to put it all out there. We'll have some kind of website.
UConn's website.
Yeah, but more than a website. It's like, you guys communicate very differently than what I grew up with. I'm in the generation where I had to go down to the computer center and do your paper when I was in college. You hit print, you had to come back an hour or 2 later because that's when it finally came out. It's very different today. I do have a Facebook account, but it's more to keep an eye on my kids and my grandchild. What's that?
In regards to current plans though, I have heard from public sources that there is a proposal to transform, to cut off, close off Hillside Road and turn it into a bus-only road. Do you keep that movement?
So the question, if you didn't hear, is one of the options is close Hillside Road and have it only for transportation, and that is an option. So we get rid of, instead of getting rid of the buses and let the cars go on it, let's get rid of the cars and let the buses go on it. That's an option, and we're looking at that as well. I think she made it first, send it back to me.
Okay, so just looking at that map right now, and looking at what blue and purple does, they go to so many places. Meanwhile, looking at like green and orange, like the distance is just so short when it could have been used to go to more places, so that way you wouldn't have to be doing the whole transfer the second bus thing.
So orange is the circulator.
Yeah.
We want it so people can transfer it, people can get onto it. And green doesn't look like it's a long one, but that goes all the way up from I-Lot down into the core of campus and then down into Mansfield Apartments to try and get pick up Mansfield Apartments. And I don't think that one's very different than last year.
No. And one of the things that could be debated is, are short routes more easily kept on time than the longer routes that go through more traffic or then can be substantially delayed?
So I want to just be conscious of time, mine and yours and everybody else. We're talking a lot about transportation, but I think a lot of the heated conversations have been more on the parking side. So I don't want to, I can do 2 things. I can kind of strategize and stay on parking or transportation and we avoid parking, but I want to make sure we get to that. So someone up there you had a question, yeah.
Alright, so I have 2 questions. The first one being, I don't know if it was touched upon earlier, but do you have data on how many people use buses now in comparison to the same time last year? And if they're in more use or less use? And the second being, if we added more routes, do you think that would just cause more increased traffic on campus?
So there's two questions there. Is do we have comparative data? I have not seen it. I'm asking for it, and I do want to see that. A lot of the data is handled, but we got to get data input into it. We're digging into that. The second question is, do we want to build more lots?
Yeah, and if you did, would it just cause induced traffic on campus?
So there, back up a slide. So up here, way up at Charter Oak Apartments, we are planning surface parking lot. One of the things we're going to need to do when we plan that is we're going to figure out how to get everybody that parks there into the core campus. So there's more changes coming. That is something we're going to need. Really, what I want your input on, because it is a major change to our campus again. But Discovery Drive is really the only areas that we have to develop. We can't go over to Horsebarn Hill, that land is protected. We can't go into the farms, those lands, can't go too far into the farms, land is protected. We looked at W lot, if I got it right, putting parking structure there and go building up, and it becomes cost prohibitive. So we're going down onto Discovery Drive and adding parking. But I gotta figure out how to get the buses into campus, and if we have a traffic issue, we do bus lanes and other things. So that's all things we gotta look at. I'll go to you and then you were next. Actually, she was next, then I'm gonna go ahead.
I just have a question. So I'm here at Sailor Line, which looks like it's the only bus lines that interacts with transportation center. And that's where a lot of people who will dance and we take the WRTD bus come in. Like, maybe we out from like graduate students who come in on the WRTD. It's like a natural way to reduce some of the parking pressure. But I've seen it only comes every 20 minutes at peak and every 40 minutes. And it's that's kind of like a good estimate. So like, are there any efforts being done or to coordinate a little bit more with WRTD to try to encourage people to take that bus, encourage those people to drive?
So the question is really about transporting people from Willimantic back to campus, right? More and the frequency. And the answer is yes. We're in conversations not only with WRTD. This might actually be a good opportunity to start a transition to parking, but not only to work with WRTD, but also the state of Connecticut and with the UPass program, we are looking at, do we kind of look at our transportation system regionally, not just how to get people from one corner of campus to the other, but how do we get out to Tolland, how do we get down to Willimantic, how do we get out to Farmington, to our health center, to the regional campuses. This year we have students living here that are taking classes in Hartford, and that's new, so we're going to figure out how to bring people back and forth, all part of the conversation. So it's a good question, and it's complicated. It's the WRTD is it's not state run, but they're state funded. It's a regional busing system, so it's not like I can just say, hey, give them a call and then we get a bus. But maybe it's something we run a bus down a little bit. We're thinking about that. Because if I can keep, if down right at the bridge, there's a large number of housing there. If we can keep all of those students that are living there from bringing their cars by running a bus, I gain parking spaces and we reduce congestion. So that's something we're thinking about.
Two questions. First of all, why do students get more periphery area parking? Area 2s are located more in the center of campus. Area 1s are right next to buildings, but most commuter lots and even residential lots are sometimes up to a mile away from the core of campus. Secondly, why was V lot converted to 24-hour only? Nobody parks there after 5.
Because that's just
Seriously, it's ridiculous. We're speaking on the behalf of the entire School of Fine Arts. None of the community students in the School of Fine Arts have anywhere to park anymore. McMahon fills up before our 8 a.m. classes, and we are forced to park in the Store Center garage, which we have, and since we've already paid for a $300 parking pass, I've dropped $50 on parking these past 3 weeks because that's the only place I'm able to park.
So there's you touched on a few things, and I'm going to hit all, see if I can hit all of them. One, student parking traditionally or normally on campuses are the farthest away. Faculty and staff get closer. Call it privilege, call it whatever you want to call it. That's the way it is. It's part of the conversation as we move forward. So I'm just going to say that's just the way it is. I don't have any other answer for you. As far as the commuter lots and the conversion, we can talk about B lot, we can talk about some of the other ones. One of the problems we were experiencing last year is for the commuters, they come to school in the morning and there's no parking because the parking lots were full overnight. And they were filled overnight with people that lived adjacent to campus who were not commuting. And they were buying the commuter pass and parking there. So we said, we made a simple rule, commuter lots are for commuters. We want the commuter lots to be empty in the morning when the commuters come to campus. And then there was a lot of back and forth about whether it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, like what's the time that we have to vacate the commuter lot? If we can pick a time, we can collaboratively pick a time, it really doesn't matter as long as that lot's available to the commuters when they come in the morning. And that's why we made some of those changes.
But it's not available to commuters. It's 24-hour area 2 only now. It's not available to anybody, even after hours.
And I don't know the specifics, and I'm promising I will get into the specifics as we continue going forward after tonight. But you also got to remember we lost a good chunk of parking right at Fine Arts for the construction of the new Fine Arts Center.
Is there anything that can be done about that for the commuters that are in the School of Fine Arts that have nowhere to park?
All I can promise you is I'll look at it. I'll look at it tomorrow morning.
And why is it 24-hour? Again, nobody parks there after 5. There's no reason to make it 24-hour and in any case specifically in that area.
But the lot's full during the day.
Right, a
So
lot of
it's
people
being
during the day
utilized.
that would delegate that
It's
it's
being
only.
utilized.
Right, but it's not being utilized in the evening, and it can't be utilized in the evening because it's 24 hours.
And
I'm just going to look at Dwight. I don't want to get into too many of the small specifics here, but I was like, it's a area 2 parking, area 1 BR.
So, B areas for employees, and that'll go into your GAT, the GU conversation about us having more area 2 folks that need parking in the morning. The issue, again, with the 24/7 is to have the lots clear in the morning, right, for the employees. So the question is, and this will be for the discussion of the group afterwards, how can you ensure the lots are clear without the 24/7 enforcement? I mean, you could stay there till 4 a.m., but you can't keep your car there all the time. So what rule is it that will meet that objective? And we can have a conversation about how to do that, because everybody holds parking services to the rules. So what rule is it that achieves all the objectives? And if somebody can find, identify what that rule is, we'd be more than happy to change it.
So I want to we got to transition to parking here. We're actually kind of doing it slowly, but then you had a question. So it's just,
I was wondering why K-Lot was in there and turned into parking that you have to pay for when we have 2 garages kind of close to where K-Lot was.
Which one?
K-Lot is near Hilltops.
It's up by Hale. So the objective was traffic safety, to eliminate parking along Alumni. It's been a long goal of the master plan. And when they repaved, they did not change the curb line to remove the parking, so we have this half measure of almost there. And it's not sufficient for permanent parking because we'll have people looking for those few spaces and it'll cause more traffic and it would be less safe, so it was made to be paid by phone. Because they're extra capacity spaces, you want it to be able to be used, you have visitors to the residences, it's a way for them to park there when they want and not have to go to the garage. So it was an attempt to best use a legacy parking area that it's just a new thing. Again, some way to try to make the best use of the parking area.
so I want to transition to parking, but I also want to make sure you guys are pretty passionate about so I want to make sure, I'm not going to forget you, but I don't know who you are, and I don't know how to communicate with you other than through student government. So I'm going to encourage you to, through Omar or
afterwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I have to leave at 7, but.
Which is fine. I just want to make sure, we will get back to you, but we're going to do it through this new chain of, new communication chain, all right, which will be established over the next week. So I encourage you. One of the changes in parking, the number of parking spaces we have on campus has changed very little. There's been adjustments here and there. We're adding a little bit here, we've taken some away, but we did we lost about 50 or 60 spots roughly for the up and hilltop apartments for the construction of the infrastructure work for the stadium instead of being built. That's temporary. As soon as that construction work is done, it comes back. But there's a construction period of time that has to happen. When the graduate assistants unionized, the commuter lot, the commuter components, they are now eligible to buy Area 2 parking. So we need to accommodate roughly, if you think about it, and this goes to your point, like faculty and staff can park closer, we have now roughly 1,500 potential Area 2 parking people that we have to accommodate. So we just basically took that group of parking and just kind of moved out. And we had to try and adjust the parking lots the best we can. But we also wanted to make sure that those commuter lots were ready for the commuters in the morning, going back to the B lot. And the commuter being not just a student, but also the faculty and staff that are here. All that said, those were really just the basic premises of our changes to the parking. Now, I say that, we put all that stuff up on a website, but we didn't send anything out, we didn't push out any of the information to you. And I said, that's where I'll take it back and say, we didn't communicate well. If you're a student in a building, if you're living in a dorm, in a residence hall, we can't call them dorms, right? Residents would not be happy with me if I call them dormitories, but if you live in one of our residence halls, and we have a power outage, and we've probably all experienced one on campus, we have a few of them. We have a way of communicating with you, and it's fairly robust. I think you're fairly well informed of the changes. If we're going to shut power off or turn your air conditioning off or turn your heat off for a maintenance purpose or check your generator in your building, there's a communication mechanism that's already in place that's fairly robust, and we don't really get feedback. We don't have that in parking and transportation now, and that's what has to be developed. So I will talk about parking. I'm going to just sort of preface it the same thing. We don't have that communication mechanism. We don't have great data. I can tell you how many square feet, how many work orders we do, all sorts, how many BTUs, how many gallons of oil we burn on a given day. I can tell you all that data. We don't have it in a good way. So we're not able to make good decisions, or informed decisions, I should say.
I have a question regarding the redistribution, as I used to park in the lots, but as of this year, I drive up to the south garage all the time, so I'm always seeing that parking lot. The other side, as always, is packed because it's commuter now, but now that the other side is not commuter in Area 2 both, it's just Area 2, I see so many empty spots, and it frustrates a lot of commuters when they can't park there and they can come back to a ticket because they were aware. So, I mean, my question is, you say you have 1,500 Area 2s to accommodate, but I don't see all the spots ever full.
So we have the potential for 1,500 Area 2s. So we're not sure how many of the grad assistants have cars, use our mass transit system, or use our transportation system, use WRT. So we had to accommodate for the 1,500. And as the students come in, as everyone starts parking, I don't know if you notice a lot of our parking signs can be moved. They're not permanent, so we're able to make adjustments to the parking lots as the year goes on.
My other question is, if you've accommodated for that redistribution of Area 2s, with the influx of students living off campus and thus commuting to campus, how have you accounted for that redistribution for commuters?
I'm not sure I understand.
The number of commuters has grown substantially since I've become a student here, and I've noticed it. Everyone's driving their cars. I've noticed a lot less resident stickers and a lot more commuter stickers. So, I mean, with that increase, how are you going to in the future? Because if it's increased this much, I only see it increasing at this point.
So I'm going to pause for a second and just say our student population is really largely unchanged over the last few years.
I'm talking about distribution though at that point.
Yeah, but the number that are living on campus and our total population is largely unchanged. Michael and Scott are here. The question is, there's more commuters than there ever was before. But our total residents, I mean, it's largely unchanged. We have 12,500 beds.
Would you mind just, I know it's like a formality, I feel like it would be better to speak to the audience if you're here.
Sure. Well,
I think you're asking Michael how many students, residents.
I'm Michael Gilbert. I serve as UConn's Vice President for Student Affairs. Res Life is part of our portfolio. We have on average 12,300 to 12,500 students living in the residence halls on day 10 every fall semester.
Yeah, my question is, I've noticed a lot more commuter passes, not residential. Are residents on campus allowed to buy commuter passes, or are they only allowed to buy resident passes?
It should be only resident.
It is only residents, it's coded into the system.
Because I mean, I've noticed kids that live in dorms that have commuter passes in their cars, and I don't know how that happens.
Out of convenience, because there's no resident parking.
But they have a commuter pass on their car.
The system actually should prevent that. I can't speak to, there's also, people have their ways.
So I think a couple of things are occurring. Firstly, that the passes for the graduate assistants are not just area 2, it's also a commuter. So many of our GAs are parking commuter. We're trying to park in area 2. So I think when we think about it, like what Rachel said, people find their ways, right? And I think also when we think about the fact that the reason that our parking changed was because obviously the parking was not satisfactory for us. It wasn't meeting our needs. It's still not.
You
meeting
grad
our
assistant?
needs. Yes, I am a grad assistant. So I think it's important for us to know that, you know, we recently surveyed our members in GDU, and we had like this new pass, and it was not a panacea because like 35% of the members that we surveyed are still experiencing problems.
So the complexity is this.
Yes,
As a grad assistant, you can buy either a commuter if you're commuting, or you can buy an area 2. So when we got to how do you redistribute the spaces, we have to assume that there's a potential for 1,500, did I get it right? 1,500 potential new grad assistants. But the reality is we haven't sold 1,500 spaces. So that's why some parking lots may look empty that are area 2.
And I think these,
And we have to
these
do
sort of
redistribution.
shuffling of parking spots and the designation of parking spots, like there are limitations to that from an assistant architect perspective in terms of where do people get to visit based on, you know, the idea that commuters are coming to campus in the morning is just not true for a lot of people because commuters have complex lives where they're parents and they're working off campus or we're teaching or doing research in the afternoon or evenings. And so there's a lot happening that I don't think fits into this paradigm of these sort of tiered hierarchies of parking lots and designations and certain people fitting certain roles on this campus and the space that we occupy with parking. I think that it's not reflective of the actual ways that all of these constituencies are navigating this campus, the times that we're coming to campus, the places that we're needing to go. And I see that, you know, people are trying to go places that they can't find spots and they're full. And it seems like the system is structured in such a way that's not reflecting our actual experiences of the people on this campus.
I agree to some extent. The thing with parking too, you think about where are most of our parking spaces? It's all, we're all up on the north end. I know B-lot is important to you in the South Campus surface lot, but that's very small compared to Farmer Brown X lot, F lot, C lot, W lot, which are the majority of our parking spaces. And so this distribution, you know, we're trying to take, is it right lot that's behind McMahon? We try and take that and chop it up and make it the best you can for both constituents. It does get difficult. So, but it's all part of what we have to look at.
Yeah, I'm also a GA. I love my students at part time. I always teach in Joan, which is behind Dairy Farm, and there's not really a bus that goes regularly to that area. So, you know, my students are struggling, and like I have 20 people in my classroom ready to go, but I have like 3, you know, who have to really sort of like go the distance across campus, and you can't move your car. I mean, it's different in a lot of things, but like I'm not trying to compete with my students. It is best for all of us that they're able to come to class and I'm able to teach them because they have lives. I have students who can meet an hour. You know, so I mean, it's really frustrating because like I feel like we always existed too. We didn't always like spring fully formed from like our advisors had this year, right? So like, we were parking in W lot, we were parking as commuters. We we love learning, we love teaching, and like, I feel like we're being pitted or sort of blamed for this issue, right? Without necessarily, like, all of the cases, is that what I mean?
Yeah, it's not, when I say there's 1,500 new, potential, it's not 1,500 new parking passes. It's a redistribution of, so we didn't grow the university by 1,500 more parking passes. It's just, we have to sit here now and try and figure out, are you gonna buy a area 2 or here? And when you buy the high level here or the low level here? And you try and set your parking lots up in such a way to accommodate everybody. We also have all the faculty and the staff and the various unions that have all those other roles in there that we have to comply with. So it's, we're not saying the GA's caused the problem, it's just that that's why we have to redistribute the parking. And the accommodation of the commuter lots, making sure that they're available in the mornings.
If I could just say, we did it kind of by the numbers and with assumptions, and then real life happens. We're now 2 weeks into the semester, and we can see how it's playing out. See what these real life situations are. See where folks are actually parking. We made all these assumptions systemically. And we have to run a system that we can't adopt to individual needs. It's by categories. But we can shift the categories now that we know what people are doing. So what you're seeing now doesn't mean that it has to stay this way. Excess capacity in some area can be reallocated now too, with adequate, notification to make these adjustments, and with the administrative support to adjust up people who are represented by other unions to make sure they're okay with it.
Good. And I want to do a quick summary of some things we are going to do.
So I have two kind of related questions. First, so I know other students have talked about this, she's talked about it, like as a commuter, you have to come in and you're already, you have gas money, so you're like paying for gas to get onto campus, and that's kind of what you calculate for and adjust your expenses for. But then having to drive between 3 or 4 different lots to find parking, that's just like frustrating, and waiting on a student to leave, like seeing if someone might leave and then I can park. That's really frustrating as a student. The other day, I live down in South Eagleville. I'm a 2-minute drive away from campus. I have to leave an hour early for my 8 a.m. class to get parking on this campus, which is ridiculous. I started by going to L lot, that was full, went to X lot, that was full, then had to go all the way to W lot, and there's 1 parking spot available there. As a student, that's really frustrating, but also wastes a lot of gas, especially driving, on these roads, stopping constantly. That's a huge expense. Additionally, some of these lots we talked about public safety a lot. Some of these lots are just not safe for students. Like X lot, I hit at least 3 or 4 potholes every day while driving in, and I don't know what the condition is going to be once, winter comes and starts snowing, but there's going to X lot, there's a very small space to get in there, and then taking turns on, while looking for parking, there are many potholes, hit them every day, and I get scared I'm gonna get a flat tire and have another expense, on my mind. So just if you could talk a little bit to that, is there any technology or anything that can be used to tell students, okay, this lot is full? I know at some of the lots they do say oh, this lot is now full, but it doesn't seem like something that's permeated through.
So I want to have technology as well. I had asked, when you come in either on 195 or 44, when you get close to campus, and I don't know where these signs would be, but we should have signs, and it's all automatic, that says W lot full or C lot full, so that you can know then where to go.
Yep.
And by you getting right to a parking space and getting out, that keeps you from circulating, which opens up the roads, which allows the buses to run better. So the technology does exist, and it's something we're exploring. I don't think I can make it happen for second semester, but that's something for first semester next year is something I bet you we can have done. But it just,
could I just make one announcement about there is parking on site. I know most people don't want to park there for a variety of reasons, but every day there's a couple of hundred spaces available on the lot. I try to get that message out. It's 200 or 300 spaces empty. If you want to just park there, we'll have to make sure that the shuttle is running on time and providing good service to it, but there is parking there.
A suggestion, because it seems to work so well with the garage, is have a key card that every student gets with their pass, just like they do with the garage, to help you decipher when the lots are full.
because that way, then you know they're full.
So gate all the garage, gate all?
I would honestly, it would also keep on students that aren't supposed to park in those lots out as well, because it would only work for the students that apply past.
That's an option.
I see too many orange stickers, or orange tickets, just littering cars that don't have passes and lots.
And I agree. The ticketing is a whole different, no one likes to get ticketed.
I'm just saying, it's from students that don't have a pass at all, they didn't spend the money to buy the pass, so the students that did, at least give them a
So
shot.
gating them all is an option. There's other, the simple technology that I'm thinking of is just a simple counter. You know,
That could work too.
just how many cars went in, how many cars went out. And even if there's 2 or 3 spaces, but the lot's either full or not full. I mean, that technology exists and it's fairly easy. The gates, believe it or not, they become maintenance headache. They're a lot of work to maintain. The way our lots are designed, there's so many entrances, especially like if you take like a W lot, you got so many different entrances. C lot would be easy. C lot would be easy. Charter apartments would be easy. Maybe apartment complexes would be easy. But some of the other ones, there's so many entrances and so.
Well, my only reason I'm suggesting it is because at my boat club, the entire summer, last summer, we had a hell of a time because we have a restaurant right next to it. And as soon as they added the gate, not a single issue with parking since. And that's just why I'm saying, well, it might actually work.
Any other questions? So one of the takeaways, as I mentioned already a few times, is we are going to form an additional committee or group. I don't want to call it a committee because there's all the rules and that comes with. But we want to have a way to funnel communication back and forth much better than we're currently doing. And I was, facilities operations has a website that's very stagnant. They took a lot of stuff off of it. No one was going to it. No one, if your place is either clean or it isn't clean, there's a way to put a work order in. Having logistics or parking and transportation under me is really the first opportunity that I'm now touching every student. So I know facilities are going to need to get into social media. We're going to have to do a lot of other things differently in order to communicate well. So that's sort of one takeaway. There's another one, and Sam is not here. He and I had a couple of really good conversations this week. We sold commuter parking spaces with the assumption that the commuter parking would be fairly close. And now those commuters that we sold may have to park a little bit farther away or more distant, or Marlies or Christine, I forget the term we agreed to during the meeting, but it's the more remote parking is where we are. And he was saying that the students that bought those parking spaces, whereas all commuter paid more, they should have just paid less. We're looking at a mechanism to, okay, maybe you can rebuy your parking pass at the lower rate, but reimbursing is something that just the process of doing a reimbursement is not easy. So we got to go through, so we're looking at that. So those are like 2 quick things that I thought, we're in agreement on. Some of the fixed committees that we currently have, I went to one last spring. It was probably 25 people, and there was representation from all the unions, faculty, staff, administration, and it was very formal. It was kind of stuffy, and it wasn't really open to communication. It wasn't open to just having a conversation. So we kind of went in, and all the administrators gave their reports, and we had our reports, and we read things off, and then everybody, no one asked any questions, and everybody went home. That's the official group that's supposed to be doing this communicating. That's not working. We're doing it because we have to do it. We need a different model, and that model is going to be more these types of meetings, these types of conversations, working directly with USG, kind of get the word out differently. We'll let you know what we're doing, getting good positive feedback. BLOC, we'll figure that out. The issues up in Hilltop, we'll figure that out. We can't make everybody happy, but at least we can see if we can get the masses happier than we currently are.
So I know all of you have concerns, and you hear a lot of we're going to address it as soon as we can. I put this email up here. If you actually truly believe that you are willing to dedicate some of your time, not a lot of time, but enough time to see these, to kind of vocalize the concerns of your fellow students and be a part of the decision-making process that's gonna change them, email this email address, any point today, and I'll add you to a list, and then that will be part of the students that will be, not necessarily just invited because it's gonna be open, but brought in to kind of discuss these issues at the table, because like Mike is saying, these are very, very pressing issues and they should be resolved tomorrow. It would be amazing to see them tomorrow, but it's not gonna happen unless the students that are here and the students that kind of represent the larger student body, so students from sports, students from music, students from fine arts, students from all different areas of campus, we need to see that representation so that we can make these concerns less of a concern, if not a concern at all. So in a perfect world, in my mind, we can have these issues resolved by next Wednesday. 1 week from now, parking should be, in a perfect world, would be flawless. That being said, I want you all to really, really make an effort because we can't make any decisions, and the students that are kind of relaying this information to the people that are the decision-making body cannot make these decisions on our own. We need student responses on Facebook, and we know we've been taking a lot of concerns like Google Forms and Survey Monkeys from the graduate and undergraduate student representatives on the trustees. But you need to communicate your frustrations. Just like this department needs to be more communicative with you all, you need to respond and kind of be in the same way conveying your concerns to us. Like I said, I think it's very feasible to have things already changed next Monday on campus. It's not going to be perfect, but a trial and error run is really what we're going to have to do, and I think working with Department of Facilities is going to be the best way to be doing that. So that being said, I don't mean to be disrespectful at all. Dwight Atherton, Mr. Atherton is the Director of Parking Services, and a lot of people had questions for him. They expressed the fact that they want to ask these questions in the Facebook event page, and I do want to invite him up to appear with us to speak, if possible. He's been kind of elusive. He's a very behind-the-scenes man, as a lot of the positions at this university are. But I would like to invite him just to kind of any questions that people from have for our parking director. I would invite them now or forever hold your case.
And I want to also just, my role in terms of heading up the facilities operations, now with logistics, is to find the people that can run the individual departments and run them really, really well. So if you, our power plant, so right now, University of Connecticut is unique for a Northeast university in that we run our own power plant, we run our own water system, we run our own sewer system, we run our own reclaimed water system. Unusual. I worked in Boston for 10 years, you just connected to the grid. You just connected on, you got your power from NSTAR, you get your water from MWRA, you get your sewer from MWRA. Different here, we're doing it ourselves. So I went out and found Stan Nolan. Stan ran a nuclear power plant at a submarine for 13 years, he's an engineer. Probably the last time you'll hear Stan's name, because Stan runs, like, your power's on, your water and your sewer is working. That's his role. Eric Kruger, 22 years in the Navy. He was one of the few people in the Navy that was actually licensed to run the nuclear power plant in the back, but he's also certified to actually pilot the submarine. 22 years, he spent one time, I think it was 9 or 10 months underwater during one of the wars. He runs the trades group. Probably the last time you're going to hear Eric's name, because Eric just runs the trade groups. The plumbers, the electricians, the carpenters, the roofers do a really good job. My job with Dwight is to make sure you never hear his name again. What we want to do is run a really good parking and transportation system. My job is to support him and make sure that he can get his job done the best we can. So I'm going to encourage Dwight to answer questions, but what I have found in roughly 6 months that I've had in the department, very talented man, knows what he's doing, and we just got to set up logistics in this part of the department up the way we got the rest of the department set up. And I'll continue. I mean, there's guys like Harris Ristow who runs my. Anybody think that the campus is dirty, like in terms of ugliness? You do?
The jewel pods all campus are disgusting.
The what?
The jewel pods, the jewel pods are absolutely disgusting.
Oh, the jewel pods.
Yeah,
But
they're absolutely gross.
we have a very robust cleaning and landscape, and our landscape.
That was like a thing last year, I was like, oh my God.
But my point is, there are people within the department that do a really good job that are unseen, and facilities operations should just run. You guys shouldn't see us. And that's my goal with logistics and parking and transportation. Run a really efficient, top-of-the-line system, and you guys don't need it. So, with all of that said,
I'm invisible.
this is Dwight.
So, yes, Dwight Atherin, I oversee parking and services. If you have questions, happy to answer them. Yes. Oh,
He was in the back first.
Sorry, just wanted to quickly go back to this. So is it possible to like repave some of these lots too, just for safety? Like again, X lot, potholes everywhere coming up that road, up to X lot past Ted's, you know?
So the plan for paving, sorry, I'll do that, because that's my side of the house. The plan for paving is actually W lot next year. We want to try and get that better lit, cameras, the counting system put in and repaved. And there's some drainage issues up there as well. But X lot is a potential building site like as well. So.
Could like some of the potholes at least be remedied?
We can get those now.
Yeah.
I'll take that away. We'll get our guys, our utility group, will be over there this week.
That'd be perfect, thank you. And sorry, one other quick question. At Hilltop, that back entrance, I know right now Jim Kelvin Way to Socrates is closed. It's going to open up again, I think in October at some point. That's what we were told. But I heard the entrance to Hilltop from the back is permanently closed. Just wanted to know the reasoning for that because again, that could take away some of that traffic coming in because you can drive through.
Not permanently closed, but closed for the foreseeable future during construction. And we're talking about putting a gate on it and allowing our buses to cut through there. But to run permanent traffic through Hilltop Apartments, we're looking at traffic mitigation issues.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm not stealing his thunder, those are still more on my side.
Yeah.
And that's being studied now.
Okay, thank you.
So I've been told that even with the redistribution, so to say, of the area to passes, overall commuter parking spaces have not been reduced. Where are they?
So I'll say that they aren't meaningfully reduced. They were reduced about 80 spaces overall. So in 2016, we did a study assuming, I think, an occupancy rate, this is detail, I'll tell you anyway, occupancy rate, I'll even reduce it further. There's an effective extra capacity on our surface lots of about 1,500 spaces on every day. So there was a slight reduction in the number of commuter spaces, about 80 in the system-wide, but didn't affect the operational efficiency of the commuter parking. So that's the detail. So the general thing is it's not an effectual change, but there was a small number of spaces that was reduced. There was a small number of spaces, about the equal of resident parking that was reduced. Again, not an effectual change, but nevertheless a numerical reduction.
So where are those spaces?
Where were they reduced?
No, where did you said that there was an ineffectual reduction of about 80 spaces for those.
Transferred over to other parking types.
Yes.
Right, but
So
you said that
there was a reduction of commuter capacity, resident capacity, moved over to area 2 capacity to better accommodate the graduate students who are then opting into area 2 in uncertain amount. So that's how that changed.
So the way it's set up is there's 12,000, roughly 900 parking spaces on campus. And we need to figure out how to distribute that between area 1, area 2, commuter close, all commuter, I forgot all the different levels. And sometimes it's a show game. Are all 1,500 grad students going to go for area 2, or is there going to be a blend? And we're actually found that it's actually fairly low, but you have to plan for the whole amount. So the spaces didn't go anywhere. Where there were adjustments is like we need parking. We're doing a laydown area for a construction job that goes in the parking lot. So there's roughly 50 spots, I believe, up at Hilltop Apartments that went away for a period of time. But that's not impacting the parking at Hilltop Apartment too much. That convenience to that one area is, but it just pushed everybody a little bit further away.
So for your information, right? Hilltop Apartments, 78 spaces.
went offline through November 1st. That's the schedule, don't hold me to it. We had to remove residential parking in that lot to make sure that Hilltop Apartments had sufficient capacity. We are now seeing 2 weeks in that they do have capacity. I'm going to add, not without ample notice, but I'm going to add back in the resident parking that was replaced, at least half of it, see how it goes, and then restore the other half, because it looks like there is capacity. So from Mike's point of view, it's a dynamic situation that we have to see what the personal behavior is and then adapt to it. Every year is different, the personal decisions are different, how the lots are used are different, so we're always making these minor adjustments to make sure that the extra capacity is used. We'll probably make a similar change to fill up lot 8, which is that lot right beside the south garage, which has extra capacity in it now. We'll make changes to make sure it fills up. But you start the year and see how the patterns are, and then you make changes.
Yeah, you had your, okay.
I have a couple of questions. So you said that there were a total of 12,900 spaces. What happened for coming access to the large school?
Yeah.
In a matter of fact, it will be out there. We had Information Act request for that information, and I'm sure that that's going to be.
So it's roughly 18,000,
Yeah.
19,000, somewhere around.
Okay, so there is a deficit of parking passes. I mean, because
So you don't sell, so we know that every student's not going to be here every day for the whole day. So there's this blend that you try and anticipate, and there's a matrix of some sort of thing. Yeah. But so you sell about 19,000 for your 12,000. That's typical.
Okay. And another question is with regards to the youth pass, that's something that goes to your office. That can be pretty difficult to access, particularly for our international student population, usually for people on the short visas, visiting scholars. I mean, is there going to be anything done to promote that or expand use of that? And my last was a comment.
So we have sold almost 8,000, I believe, this year already.
Right. Yeah.
There was a period of time in the beginning of the semester where the state didn't give us the passes, so we couldn't sell them. It wasn't that there was not enough, it's just we didn't have the things to sell, so we got them from DOT and we're going to sell them. But our sales are way up on that, which is great.
So I wonder what and this is maybe too detailed, but what those issues are for those students. Anybody who can get online with a net ID should be able to, and is an enrolled student, ought to be able to get it. If they meet that status, they should be able to get it. There shouldn't be any issue associated with it. So if there is, we just need to know the details to know what category of student is being affected.
And the last thing, just a comment, is a couple of things I know after the parking services. I called, I don't know, I appreciate that parking services staff are out there, and a lot of frustration and anger, and they get everything up on me. I was trying to figure out where I could park, because my area 2 spots are full, and I have to pay for his pass, and this whole thing I was told, why are you upset? You have the best parking on campus. That was just, it was so belittling. Because it's just obviously I don't. If I have to pay my easier for free than to park in Narnia. So maybe just moving forward.
So I'll take that away from Dwight too. And say one of the things right now you call parking services and you get service. You call for if you have an issue with mobility or something, you can call and get a ride from one of the ADS things. We're going to have one call center, and they're going to be professional people doing dispatch. I'm not saying that the group isn't professional now, but there is the Facilities Operations Center is a very trained customer service oriented group. Ultimately, that's the place where all those calls can be. The comment, if you couldn't hear, is that she called parking services and didn't receive good customer service. Right? Can we just sort of summarize it for you? And we need to improve on that.
So this is sort of a niche question per se. So I believe that there is a decent amount of capital that's accrued through the violations of parking and such. I probably introduced that on help you, us. So I'm just curious, like as to where that capital goes towards, like it goes towards like any kind of project or apartment projects in the future, or if there are any plans, like where does that go per se?
It all goes into one pot. And then that money, it pays for the operations itself. One of the things we're trying to do is utilize the parking and transportation money on the parking and transportation system. I don't want to use your tuition money to pay the parking lot.
Appreciate it.
Your tuition money should be paid for faculty and all your other programs.
Do you have the numbers of how much is accrued throughout a year?
Accrued as in profit.
Not profit, it's just like income from private violations.
On the violations, I don't know that number.
About $1 million, I have the budget.
Well, you referred to the budget before, because I'm looking at the numbers, and that number doesn't seem right. Neither did the $300,000 number, but it's parking, transportation, and the warehouse is about a $22 million operation. That's to purchase the buses and the fees and all the income. And we're in the process of looking at how do we make it more efficient. But the money will be going back into paying for the drivers, paying for new buses, paying for, when we do W lot, I'm hoping I can set it up in a way that I can put new lights up, cameras up, using parking, and both violations and your permit fees to cover.
Yes, I think that's the goal of what we would like, is just having those, that revenue, I guess, go towards means that will reduce the violations in the first place.
But again, that's part of the transparency too. I don't have a problem showing when we get it. So I'm restructuring the financial systems as well. And when we get it very transparent, we'll show you today.
And anything that's left over goes into a student scholarship by state statute.
I don't know who was first. I think you had your hand up for a while.
Hilltop resident parking spots that we're dealing with, construction. So is that blocked road?
No, it's just one section of that end that's offline behind the construction fence right now.
So it's offline, not road?
Well, it's offline because it is a construction site and it's affecting 78 spaces.
Okay, so there's 130 parking spots that are Hilltop up there, and of those 130 parking spots that are at Hilltop, how many of the resident spots did you close out?
There were, there was, I think it was like, I think it was about 7. And we're going to be putting it back about 35.
So then the tickets that are given to those areas, would those also be reimbursed because you are bringing that parking lot back to the residential lot?
The citation, well, two things. The citations were issued on violations that occurred at the time they were issued. So if it was in violation of whatever parking signage that existed at the time it was issued, that's what it is. In terms of the appeal process, I'm not involved. I'm excluded by
So what would be the process for?
I would go through the appeal process if you got a ticket. I think it's worth talking about, and let's bring it to light. I think it's worth bringing into this conversation. I want to touch on tickets here for a second. And I raised my hand when we were talking about ticketing. For my staff, and now even with parking logistics, all the white vans that you see around campus, if they park in a handicap spot, not only does there be a ticket, we're going to tow the car. That's one rule we don't break. But our guys and everybody have to comply with the rules. Now, what I did with my car is I took my pass and flipped it up. And when I drive on the highway, it kind of gives me a blind spot. And I just had it flipped up on zero. And I forgot to flip it back down when I got to campus. I got a ticket. They did not see my pass. In the residence hall area, so for Hilltop Apartments or around north and northwest, we only sell enough. We only sell the passes, unlike what we were talking about before, we were 12,900 parking spaces. We don't oversell the resident lots. We only sell what those residents can have. So ticketing in that area, you didn't belong there. You didn't have that resident pass for that lot. So that's pretty straightforward on those particular areas. Part of the customer service piece is also ticketing. I think we can utilize the gentlemen that are out there ticketing also to help us with communicating with students and where to park and stuff, rather than it just be a ticketing program. I haven't even scratched the surface yet on that issue with Dwight, so that's not news to him right now.
I recently visited a different campus during their first week of school and parts of the I was supposed to. And instead of receiving a ticket, I received a warning and an explanation of why I shouldn't park there during the first week of school and the first few times for classes.
So during the week of welcome here, we had week of warning here.
Okay.
So we ran our own wild program. So,
That's good.
yeah.
That's what you see reported, the Sea of Orange. We almost always get an article written about the Sea of Orange tickets at the beginning of every year. They're all warnings, and it is for that intent.
The other thing, sorry.
Right, no, go ahead.
The other thing is, I have gone through those process for parking services, and I found it less than, I want this is properly. So, when considering the fact that this is all university and their students, I'd like to bring back your point about everybody having different life and home experiences, and a lot of commuters as well might have different responsibilities for things that they have to do, or hour commutes, or even longer. Obviously, the law is the law and must be followed, but I think perhaps in the future, taking in a more human perspective for the appeals process might be something that can be considered, perhaps a person forgiveness program. And obviously, I can see what have to go wrong. It could absolutely be abused, and you have people parking everywhere and causing more problems. But it perhaps might be something that we discussed, because depending on where people park, a $50, $20, $25 ticket can be a meal for a week, or like being able to buy something clothes or not, because a lot of our budgets are incredibly tight. So for professors, it's something that we might be able to budget in, and I expect professors to do that. But at least me, I'm not privileged enough to have that in my budget, and the instance where I'm running late or have something going on.
We can take that in. I know I've asked, what is our percentage of waiver on our tickets? It seemed reasonable, but that's at the highest level. It seems like we do waive a fair amount, we do grant a fair amount of appeals. I don't know if that we compare well against like Trinity College or Yale or Boston College or Boston University. I just don't know those numbers.
We were just coincidentally identical to the town. And they have an entirely different process.
But I'll look at the human aspect of the appeal process. That's something we look at.
Just under consideration, especially considering most people are ticketing, at least from my perspective, obviously don't have the numbers, are students who are firstly hopefully paying for a parking pass, which is expensive to begin with. And people who choose to commute aren't obviously the traditional student. And a lot of people choose to commute because they can't afford to live in housing.
In ticketing, you guys are not alone. We are equal opportunity ticketers. We get everybody.
So and to put the enforcement into perspective, much of the enforcement is to protect the privileges of the permit holders who are authorized to park in there.
Any other questions?
I know before we were talking about like the communication between parking services and the students. Do you know exactly when, we're possibly foreseeing improvement in the communication? Because
This week and next. This is one of the ways. And I'm going to, through Omar, we're going to look for representatives to sit on a group. And if I have to meet with everybody on a weekly basis, we'll do that. And we'll, I want to, but the data has to be real. So one of the, Omar sent me an email earlier today about somebody who was frustrated and they had to take an Uber to get from the commuter lot to campus. But, okay, from which lot to which area? It was like, so let's get to the data. And I didn't check the email if we have the information yet. But we want the data, and we really do. We'll make decisions, we'll make adjustments. But we, working with Omar and Christine and Sam and the rest of the people in student government, we'll form this other group and get it going. And if you, you guys came tonight, so all of us, you're more passionate about it than other people, so get involved. That's the good stuff.
stiff and a little bit ineffectual and, you know, a university committee, but my understanding is that the Parking Advisory Committee has sort of power and rights within various union contracts and university policy. And so I think it's important to engage students in a more open and less formal mechanism. But, you know, to what degree is that advisory committee doing work that actually addresses the needs of the campus? And if not, does that need to be adjusted or changed? And what does that look like? Because I would hate to see a group like this start up and have really, really great conversation and great work, and then
the parking advisory committee, I agree, and the parking advisory committee is not going to go away. It exists for many reasons.
Yes.
What the members need to do, though, is not just go to the meeting. And that's sort of what, we kind of went to the meeting, we all got our cookies and a bit of juice, and we sat there, we listened to the presentations, and it was informative. But the representatives need to go back and inform their bargaining members also. And I just think that the structure of it just needs to be changed and be more open. And I think that there's going to be tiers of this communication that has to happen.
So are there opportunities to do that type of restructuring? Or is this a sort of committee that you're looking for, or work separate from that? You know, I'm wondering what's the actual power?
So how I will communicate with student groups is going to be a little bit different than I will maybe with the parking advisory team. But I think this issue needs to go to that committee. And are there students on the parking advisory?
Well, they're representative of undergraduate and graduate students.
And I'm not sure if when they left the meeting, as I progressed in my career, as I got older, I used to wear a tie, and I was starting to decide I'm not wearing a tie, blazer makes me look good, but or something like that. But you go to these meetings, and I go to the board meetings. I was at other universities, and I got all nervous, right? I was inexperienced, I was younger, I got all nervous. That was my impression of a lot of people that went to that meeting. A whole bunch of administrators came in our suits, and we're up here saving our suits. And it's very intimidating to people. So I just think the structure just needs to change a little bit. I think it needs to be more informal, more conversational, more interactive than it has been. And that's a one meeting takeaway from me. I guess, again, it was last spring, but it's a one meeting takeaway. And there was other feedback that we got. I sit on another committee, I sit on too many committees. I sit on another one, which is the labor management, all the union heads and then some senior administrators. And we meet about every 6 or 8 weeks. And one of the things that the union leaders were asking is feedback from parking and transportation. So, well, that mechanism that's in place obviously wasn't working. So we're going to change that. But I think we need to put a forum together that allows everybody to speak freely. And I think you're all doing tonight.
I know I'm standing up here as if I would like to offer a suggestion to somebody in the audience. Is it possible for us to develop a alternate bus system and propose changes to the bus system and parking services, parking lots, like area 2 designation, commuter designation by some point next week, and then email them out to all the students on campus and collect survey data saying, what do you think? Is this going to serve your needs? Is this not going to serve your needs? What do you think needs to be fixed? What is working well for you based on these things that we're proposing?
You give me some representation of people, like 3 or 4 or 5 people.
So that's something that's possible, right?
That's possible. We already have some ideas, and we already have a few ideas that maybe we could change. But I want to be able to talk through the issues. I want to be able, not all the buses can stop in front of the student union because it's not safe. So we got to kind of, we got to follow some premises. But yeah, if we can get the right group together, we can sit, hash it out, and then just making sure that all of our constituents make sure that we're covering all the areas.
And I think such data would be a good thing to do, just so we don't have to have people complain and buy or sell again. We can have them complain via a survey that you're going to collect and have all the data right there for you to see.
You're a buy and sell, and I just got used to Yik Yak a few years ago.
No, don't use Yik Yak. Delete that. It's gone.
I know. See, the technology's going too fast for me. So.
Are there any last questions that we want to ask before we wrap up? I know we've kind of gone a bit over what we anticipated, but we have room until 8, so it doesn't really matter. I'll get a second.
All right, I'll go. Is there any way we can differentiate between resident students and resident students that have to go to Hartford every day to go to classes? Because I know there are times that I have to be in class at here at like 2, and I'm in Hartford, but since I can't find parking, I just have to basically stay out of here until 5, so I have to skip class.
So differentiate between a resident student and a resident student. Oh, I didn't hear that.
Resident students that like live here and take all their classes here, and resident students that take the majority of their classes in Hartford.
Or internships, or have work off campus, like have a reason to exit campus and come back.
Yeah.
Have you used the U-Pass to go back and forth to Hartford?
So the problem with the U-Pass for me is I have an 8 a.m. in Hartford, and the bus that should get me there by 8 leaves at 7:13, which means it would arrive around 8:15-ish. So the bus I would have to take is at 6:13. So I'm waking up at 5:45, 5:30 in the morning, when I could just take that 35-minute drive at 7:30 to Hartford.
What is it, you have the 6, the 9:13, and then there's the shuttle to Farmington, is that right? What are the other options?
Well, again, I would talk to you personally to figure out what the schedule is. In terms of internship, non-internship, if there's a privilege of an internship, everyone has one, we have to get documentation for it and all that. So it's hard, we'd have to work out the details of a different resident permit that had different privileges, and how to distinguish that from another. And would that then be more expensive? All those questions, you know, everything, parking seems like it's really easy. It always gets down to the details. And as Mike can tell you, I do details pretty well, and that's why he's talking. So it's something that you and I can discuss, but it's very detailed.
Okay. And to be quite honest, you living here and going to school in Hartford is a new thing to the university. So as I was saying earlier, we may not be able to satisfy every single variation of it, but we'll certainly listen to you and see if we can figure it out.
So 2 things I learned in June or July. One was that the graduate students had gained this privilege, and the other one was that students like in Hartford were going to live on stores. So we didn't have much notice to do anything other than the same thing, and we weren't sure what the needs of this population would be because it's new. And to Mike's point about something else about communication we'll need to discuss. What happens when there's really significant changes during the summer? That's what happened here. Right before we opened up for our permit sales, the rules changed, and no one's here. So how do you communicate those things too? So you got all returned to a different playing ground, and it happened during the summer, and it seems like we pulled a fast one. It just happened during the summer. So those are things that we need to talk about too. How to communicate during the summer.
Hi, so I have something to clarify. A lot of students come up to me in regards to this. So for North and South Garage, online, does it say that you cannot park there overnight if you get the pass?
So yes, it's not for overnight parking. They do confirm whether there's overnight. I'm not going to, we can talk more about how stringently that is enforced for permit holders as opposed to those who take a pay on entry ticket. We understand there are going to be some times that it might be there, but that is something that the garage manager monitors. So if it was abused, or if it was frequent, or if it was for long term, yeah, there would be repercussions.
Right, so a lot of nursing students have come to me saying that, when you're a junior, they are required to attend clinicals, and that requires a car just per academic policy. So a lot of those students do live on campus, and they do have to park their car overnight because sometimes they have a shift. Maybe they have to get up at 4:30 in the morning and drive, and they are concerned because they think they will get a ticket or there'll be repercussions for them parking overnight. So for students who are in that bind, what would you suggest for them?
I'm laughing or smiling myself because that population, specific population, nursing and then teachers also that have their internships, their junior or senior year, my prior institution, they were the only students that were allowed to have cars. All 4 years. So it was a city university, but so it's kind of funny, so I understand what that need is, but if you're a resident, you do have your resident spot, correct?
Well, let me clarify that as well.
Yeah.
So do you have to, the resident parking, you have to buy that, right?
That's correct.
That's correct.
So for someone who, I'm not sure, people come to me and express this. So if someone did not buy, let's say the resident parking, let's say it was full, and they had to go and the south garage parking was what was available, they still can't park overnight is what the impression is. So they're in a fine for that.
So exceptions are made for those with certified or documented needs such as those. So it's not, it could be capped, they can't go online in order to do it because the sales cap is reached. To contact Parking Services, they do the evaluation of the documentation, exceptions.
So I want to try and wrap this up. So I think this was a good opportunity to communicate. I'm going to encourage anybody, and I'm going to, Omar, if you can give us a group of names, and we'll talk tomorrow and the next day about our next group meeting, whether we do it over in facilities operations or whatever we plan to do it. But I think we can sit down and start having a conversation, look at the bus routes, have a conversation, look at why we redistributed parking, look at how we're thinking of redistributing parking again. We also have to be cognizant as we make those changes. On the busing, it's primarily students. When we go to the parking, we have other people we have to talk to also. Make sure that our faculty and staff, I have, as I mentioned before, almost 400 employees, so I got people in my office all day. I have the parking C lot, because my office building is the F lot building, and it's full. And I say, get to work on time. It didn't go over well sometimes, but there's a lot of other people that we have talked to, not just facilities people. But I really appreciate your time, your effort, your concerns, your feedback, and Omar, I really appreciate you reaching out to me late last week. I'll see you tomorrow morning and start on this.
Yes.
For my coffee. Thanks.
Don't forget to email this email if you email me with the title of parking or something, I'll add